I mean, it is good to see the variety. I know we've touched on this briefly, but all six factions being represented across the course of this, different leader abilities, and even within the same faction leader ability, we're seeing completely opposed lists taking advantage of the leader ability in completely different ways. And that's really nice to see. It's a much, much healthier place that we're in now than we were previously. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see how this goes. I've got to be honest. These are not the lists I thought we were going to have, but what I can tell you is it is time to start game number 1, and we do see that overwhelming hunger list taking on Skellige.
Okay, so we do see that Skellige coming in on red, overwhelming hunger coming in on blue. Not the stratagem I would have preferred, but I am playing a meme version of this, to be fair. So we won't be able to use our Deathwish units then unless we actually consume them, which we have ample consumes of. We do see that Succubus coming into the hand. Also another interesting tech here. And it gets shuffled away. Interesting.
Yeah, shuffled away early on here. You can see, obviously, the Sunset Wanderers in hand starting. Decent draws on the other side for Sif. Has found his portal. Also has his Avalak. Yeah, not a terrible opening hand, especially if he's going to be on red. Has a little bit of reaction. Can choose to make his decisions. And we see an opening turn, Doldulok, with a Succubus being created. That's effectively creating carryover for later, as you do want one in your graveyard. The Doldulok's order ability as well, of course, can carry over into the next round, but can be really useful to improve your draw quality in that round as well. Well, the round after you click, rather.
I mean, I love the fact that he got that Succubus out on the board. Of course, it's now going to be able to go into the graveyard for later setup. And we do see that portal starting to thin the deck, getting those fish flappers out, of course. And now we have blue deciding, oh, we are committing on blue coin as well. We see the artifact being played. Quite an aggressive strategy here from Smiling's end.
Yeah, and I think it's the situation he's looking at thinking, I cannot afford to lose this match uneven. I have a good chunk of points. I have a decent amount of power and tempo. As a result, I need to make sure that I can get out of this round. That is a lot of commitment, but also does have the cards to pull it off, so it's going to be interesting. The amount of armor and possible damage synergy here for the Werecat means it's maybe not the most useful card you're going to see, unless there's a decent amount of swarm.
Yeah, let's see what Sif thinks here. He now has to decide whether he's just going to get out of the round or if he is still going to try and take round control here. Max sees an indication that he might be setting up his cards for later on instead, not maybe willing to commit as much, though Sif here has to decide what Deathwish cards he is going to play. And I mean, he only has a few in hand, and at least 2 of them are going to be big commitment cards here in round 1. We have the Werecat and we also have Maruna, of course.
Yeah, certainly options you can take. Now the Maruna isn't going to find the hugest amount of value. There aren't actually that many units that this list is going to play that are below 4 points, and it's not like damage is something that's at a massive availability. We do see the Parasite in hand, of course, so, but I mean, if you're parasiting something for 6, it's probably down at 2 points, so that Maruna, not necessarily the best. Not necessarily the best for this, so maybe more happy to commit that here. You can see that Sif now trying to make a decision. What am I doing? And we get to see the Megascope come out. Not Megascope's primary target, but ultimately that still Megascope is going to trade for another 7 points, and it's another 7-point armor-based, admittedly, but still nonetheless engine of some description, that if it gets damaged, it goes that way. I have just seen someone ask why the name is incorrect here. I believe there were some technical issues getting the original account through, so they have given a different account for him to use, created his profile on that to make sure that the tournament can go ahead, which is great, so well done team in the background there.
Yeah, and once again, we see a pass here on 7 cards, having committed our artifacts as well as location. I mean, again, a very aggressive play here, especially since we're more than willing to just give GG the around here. And we see that Maddock coming out. He's going to get another 7 points with the Megascope ticking. And it's going to be enough to get him ahead here.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you are sat in Smiling's position, he's looking at this thinking, is my hand going to survive? Am I going to get out with the cards I currently have? The answer, probably no, without either committing everything, not necessarily something they want to do here, and even then, could end up in a bad spot. Took the pass when he had the chance, and has decided to go forward. So we have no Haunt now, though, but there is the graveyard setup with those with a single succubus, meaning that later on with Adrenaline it will become more of a problem.
Were you about to say the plural form of
I was going to say
succubus?
succubi, but of course there is just one succubus so far, not succubi.
Not yet, not yet.
Mm.
And we do still have
Not
that
yet.
location on the board. Order hasn't been used yet, so of course we're going to get 2 drones there, which is not bad. We also have a very good hand. Both players having drawn quite good hands here, in fact. Now, that Xavier is a bit of a scary card there on Sif's side of the board because of the fact that we are running Mamuna, I believe. I believe we are running Mamuna, and hence the fact that we have a Griffin here in hand. So that Xavier is going to be able to brick Mamuna quite substantially if it survives long enough.
Yeah, not just that, the succubus as well. That succubus is now going to disappear. We don't have access to the graveyard, guys, so we're not going to see which one it is. But I would be very surprised if it is not, in fact, that, and we see the instant trade to remove that. So, and thank you very much there for those in charge of the client for doing that. It is, in fact, yes, the succubus that has gone, which may well be why it was created so early on. Both of the others still remain in deck, though. We do see an Aneromancy there. I think that's the Echo Anero, if I'm not mistaken. It's already been used in the first round, right?
Yes, we of course do not have access to that chat.
No. But yeah, it's the Xavier's a really nice tech. You saw the Parasite snapped instantly. The ability to get involved in the graveyard has more and more impact. It's one of the reasons why I described Xavier earlier as probably the best card that should be meta that just isn't right now on ladder, because more and more factions have some sort of benefit for units being in their graveyard. So yeah, interesting to see how quickly that was answered there. Now the succubi are no longer in graveyard and prepared. We see the Bear Witcher Quartermaster coming down, and of course that the location is there for potential healing or even carryover right now.
Yes, and GG now in the 7-card range, so of course he is able to pass if he wants to and still get out with 10 cards.
That's great.
We see commitment here
The perfect
coming
Maruna.
from Smiling. Yeah, excellent Maruna. Not only do we get the Bear Witcher Quartermaster, but he's also still intact with all of his charges, so we're going to get those as well. Excellent value there.
Yeah, probably the best Maruna he was ever going to get in that situation, because it's one of the very few units that actually sit at 4 power in this list ever. And it's an engine that wasn't used either. And on the back of that, gets the pass here to take into a long round. Sets up his Griffin in the graveyard as well now. And clicks that Doldulok, because of course it wouldn't have carried over, but better yet, improves the draws. Even better still, that Sunset Wanderer is just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, very nice Sunset Wanderer there. Of course, it makes for a stronger round if you do need to bleed in around 1 or 2. Or if you need to push, but the fact that it's still there means it's just going to play for a lot of points now and get you another card in hand you might need. So very nice being able to hold it for so long. And we see both Succubi there in hand as well. It's going to be interesting to see how much points we get out of these cards. Now, we've already committed quite a bit here, but we do still have a leader charge left, and we do still have something like Werecat. Although we don't often see Swarm of something like Skellige, Werecat is also a Thrive card and can of course be played for that instead. Though it's not a great trade. It's not a great trade if you're intending to use its Death Wish ability.
Yeah, definitely so. And we just see a very, very quick play there from Smiling, looking to take a page out of someone like Cam's book. We're going to see some Blitz Gwent. You will have just seen that totem was mulliganed away there by KEEPYOURGG. That will be because it was the last artifact, and of course there is an Avalak Sage in hand there. Interesting choice. You can see the Red Haze as a bomb there. The Red Haze is interesting in an open deck list, but it is something that your opponent, even in an open deck list, may just play into. Just simply because it's another thing you have to constantly be considering. And while we've been talking up the value of this Sunset Wanderer, I believe this list runs... Oh, is this the Axie list or is this the Morkvarg list, actually?
Let's take a look. This is GG's list.
It's the Morkvarg list. Oh, I was thinking Axie was guaranteed. And one of the things we did talk about was The fact that Quen can't pull Morkvarg, of course, but could have pulled Axie, could end up being the difference here. I mean, okay, there is a heat wave, he's got a ton of removal, but interesting to see that that's the choice.
Yeah, and also just notice the fact that Karen has been changed recently, and it will now have immunity, so you can't actually use that bomb on Karen, because you won't be able to click on it. So we'll have to see how the placement affects that bomb. We are probably going to see Gigi holding on to it for as long as possible, so he can get maximum damage out of it. But for now, we shall see. Maroc still not on the board though.
And there's a reason. One of the most frustrating things when you are playing against Death Wish and you are damage, every time you damage one of those things, you're proccing its Death Wish. If he hits either of those units right now, it won't necessarily trade for positive points. It might deny a little bit of the value, but not much more than that. It's not us hovering over the... There you go, that's much better. And instead, he says, you know what, I don't care. I'm going to get this out here, and I'm going to deny you the consume value by removing that. So there is still value to it, and for once, I can't believe Maddock just jumped to the right row. I am stunned by this.
It has to be a hack. It's definitely cheating happening here, I'm
Never
sure.
happens to me. I'm curious... Okay, so decision there, we saw the Adder has the dominance as well, and of course denies some of the points from that totem, but has chosen to play into the ranged row. Now, as a result, there are now units in both rows going forward, which means it doesn't matter which row Maddock jumps to. So I'm curious as to whether that was, I want to play out of the range of Maddock without thinking about it. Maybe you haven't taken any more bombs, it's not a problem. But yeah, now, okay, so he does choose to hit the unit on the back row and deny a bit of the value he could have got himself. But yeah, the point still stands. If that was in the front row, it had a lower chance of doing so. I guess the reason is exactly what we just saw. He wanted the Maddock ping to summon for him. So I've gone through the whole circle and I've answered my own question.
I mean, to be fair, Gerd is still in hand there, and it's something we have to look out for, as it will damage everything on the same row. So what's nice about Maddock is it sort of compels your opponent to row stack in order to avoid that extra bit of damage, whereas something like Gerd just benefits significantly from it. But we do see the Sunset Wanderers coming out there, and we have an Andrega Warrior now. We don't really need more consumes here. But that Mamuna has found quite a bit of value. We see 11 points as well as a 9-point Griffin. Not bad for
It's the
a
haze
short
here
round.
I'm worried about, because there was really nice Mamuna placement to make sure you're playing around haze with that 1-point unit. And then, of course, what happens? You see the Sunset Wanderer jump to the row right next to the Griffin. It must be very, very tempting right now to take that haze for 9 points of damage, as it may be the most, and probably is the most, that you're ever going to see, and that is exactly what we do get here. If that had jumped to the front row, that is significantly less value, albeit could have waited a turn, having used Maddock, and done exactly this. So, in the end, it wasn't going to be ideal either way. It actually would have been a point more had he waited, but wasn't to know that for sure.
And we see Karen coming out, and it can't be heat waved anymore. That is a huge play. There's nothing that can be done about that. So he's actually using his Karen to prevent them from getting heat waved. That is such a nice move right there, especially in an open deck list, because you know nothing else is going to be able to do anything about it.
Exactly. Now, of course, immunity does not mean invulnerability. It can still be hit by row effects, so this Gerd can of course still target it. In addition to this, the leader ability can still target it as well, so it isn't a guarantee that it won't lose some of the value of that, but it definitely makes sense, and as you say, nothing can target it, so all of the points from that heat wave now, as a result, well, they can't do what you would hope.
No, they cannot. So that Hjalmar is already going to potential points if it's played too early. We also have that heat wave that's going to have to be used wisely. It's going to get a bit tricky here because these Andrega Warriors don't necessarily have to be played to consume much.
Clever.
Okay,
and I love the heat wave there, because I was just looking through thinking you're not going to get too much value from this removal. Heat waving that succubus denies the second succubus from being able to jump back. There is not one in the graveyard. Xavier banished the first one, the second one has been heat waved, so now this third one, is just a unit that sits in the graveyard. It literally is going to play for 5. Really nice read there from KEEPYOURGG. Yeah, really, really nice. And while there is a massive point gap here, huge point gap, in fact, 26 points, it is a little bit closer than perhaps it looks. It is not quite all over just yet. The Hjalmar, I think, has the ability to remove a 7-point unit, but that's going to lose some value unless we see it consume early on. But the Quen, I think the Quen is going to pull a Bear Witcher here, shielded.
Okay, interesting. He could, of course, have damaged Madoc and still used Madoc, but he decides to just go for a shielded unit so he can use his Fellblood Totem. Yeah, there's still quite a few points here in a GG side of the board. He still has 9 points in leader charges. He's going to have another 8 points of Bear Witcher, as well as another Mega Scope, giving another 8 points unit without the deployability. And we also haven't seen Hiron Kadoosh being clicked yet, so that's going to be able to give him another 4 points if he has the Bear Witcher to the side. It might be closer than we think, actually, because right now we're sitting on 8 points here in hand, with a few points with the leader charge. Not a lot here.
Yeah, I think GG might actually have this.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
I think GG may end up taking this, because here's the situation now. We know there are 2 consumes left, right? The difficulty is, using this consume on this unit now gives the Hjalmar more value, because the Hjalmar now will find its full value. The difference is only 6 right now. Of course, has to play the Megascope so that it still procs. That Megascope is trading for 8. So current board state, actually Gwent Test is down by 2. So is this going to be enough here? I don't think so, and I think Sif takes this. GG.
Yeah, GG indeed. He's going to get 3 points with the leader, 8 points with the Megascope. He's getting 2 points for the Fellblood Totem, and now he's going to use 7 points along with 3, making it another 10. That's definitely
just
a GG.
Nice.
Nice. Awesome. Nice game. Getting his Skellige through on red coin. Smiling is going to have to play monsters again. What a pity. We can see that awesome list one more time at least.
Yeah, and it will. We will hopefully
played.
get to see it again. Probably won't see it immediately, and we are, of course, 9 points of value plus a Madoc, so 12. But yeah, pretty content there. I think he did well to get out, not losing on even. I don't think he'll be happy with how much he had to commit to do it, but it probably was his only line there. Yeah, and of course we are talking about the Haunt there. But okay,
yes.
Here we go. Okay, so it's Draug Commandos. Good lord. Oh, and that's a very talented looking commando hand I can see here on one side. But this does have to get through, just a little bit of Syndicate line pockets, which also not looking too terrible. So this is going to be an interesting series, because you can see, of course, anybody who has faced Voltest knows it likes blue coin over red coin, because of course the scenario, the stratagem there guarantees you the benefit of better draws, but already a pretty damn talented hand if I do say so. No Amphibious Assault, not feeling amazing, no way of getting it either, of course. But yeah, we do see the defender drop down, of course, instantly, and we are saying here, answer, do your best. But we do get the Kurt there as an instant purify. Some very, very talented draws there, because a lot of this matchup, if it's pure commandos, does really come down to, can you get in the way and answer the engine quick enough? The Foltest, of course, being 5 points a turn, plus 4 points a turn of carryover. In this list, though, that is not everything you've got to worry about, because, of course, there is also the ability to pivot for Draug. You can simply become a Draug list. You don't even need to bring the commandos back with Pavetta. You could bring another unit back and take all the points from the airland instead, if you committed the Draug and went to that route. So, really interesting here, but of course, I guess we'll see how this matchup plays out.
Yeah, and we see that Smuggle coming down. They're just building up some coins in the pocket, perhaps with some removal. We don't want Centurion Envoy on the board for too long. As we can see, it is already going to place a Draug on top, most likely. And yeah, I don't really see his name, Smiling. All these new names, it's so confusing. Smiling, if that is his real name,
Probably
he
not.
is definitely going to want to get rid of that card as soon as possible. Or perhaps he might even think it's bait, waiting for a full test to be dropped on the board instead. But instead we see GG going over his decisions here? Does he want to
Yeah,
commit?
I mean, removal's at a premium, weirdly, for a list that has access to so much of it. So Line Pockets has, realistically, 2 good direct removals. One of them, of course, being the Freak Show, the other being the Drill, which takes a bit more setup. But committing those too early is really scary, and committing them on not the most important puzzle pieces rarely feels correct. You can see a dip in the Pontar there, but that on its own won't do it. Can't follow the poison through, and you're probably not likely to be using something like a Horse and Junior to get rid of it either. It does, if it works well, of course, provide loads of points later on for your opponent. It isn't direct carryover, but effectively guaranteeing your Draug in a Northern Realms list feels pretty good, right? Feels pretty good.
I mean, of course, it feels amazing, but luckily we have quite a few options in this sort of deck. We don't only have Commanders, but like you said, also Draug and Arland. A lot of options here, and it doesn't seem like we are going to be committing that combo this round. I don't think we have all the cards we want in order to do that. Defender has been purified. There's no reason to commit anything unnecessarily. Roche perhaps being played later on rather than now. And we give our Defender a boost there, and oh, there we go. Foltest being put on top now.
Foltest now in the
Something we'll
hand.
be playing soon? It depends.
It's a possibility, certainly could be an option here. 3 leader charges are quite valuable in this list, and having to use 2 of them, if you're going to use them both on Roche, can be a little bit limiting for your choices later. Not likely to find a way, of course, of getting the death blow, though. It's a little bit awkward, we do see. And, okay, nice bit of boat thinning there. Very quick dip in the Pontar, and that little bit of thinning, which Syndicate does sometimes need as well, comes out for the boat. It's going to be KEEPYOURGG is still ahead here. Isn't currently losing on even. The difficulty is when you give away the round control and your ability to bleed, both with his list and against the list he's playing, can be risky. But he will also be mindful, if not fearful, that he doesn't want to lose on even here. Now, you guys can see at the bottom there is an option called Confirm Choice. So, if you click Confirm Choice, it will not change one of these cards to the top. I would expect Draug is already the top card because it was seen last time. So the option is to confirm choice will simply change nothing. A massive improvement to this card, if you didn't realise that's what it did. And does choose to do that, and then gets pulls out there instead. Interesting, okay. Nice little bit of pairing with the Mentor. Love that card in this list, actually, for consistency in Northern Realms.
Yeah, it's looking beautiful, right? I mean, already he has a hand full of gold, all of his win conditions, except for Pavetta, of course. But right now, it's looking very good here for GG, and he has a very good hand if he wants to bleed round 2 potentially, or even go a little bit deeper into this round. Though I don't really see us going deeper into this round without wanting to commit full test while we're at it, so I think we might see a pass sooner than later, but instead we see some commitment here.
Yeah, I think that the value of the round here is quite big. Wouldn't be surprised. This is basically a threat saying, do you believe I have Graydon? Because that's kind of what the threat is of dropping that, I think. Ahead, and now ahead on even. Not surprised to see this Scylla here, because it does set up the 2-point damage you need now on the one unit that cannot be healed. It also means, of course, you could get that Vernon Roche down only using a single charge, which feels really, really nice. And a big commitment. That Freak Show, huge. Wow. And doesn't quite have the coins to finish it off without a leader charge here. In fact, without 2 leader charges. So big decision. Yeah, it has to do it. Has to take that decision.
I mean, it's make or break, right? You can't afford to lose round control when playing against Commandos, and so far, he's just able to clean the board here, and Witchfinder just doing what she does best, and she gives it to the Centurion Envoy, so that can also be destroyed now, as it is a pesky engine to allow on the board. We see Arland being played here instead to boost all the cards in the deck, but not for that other win con we could potentially have used them on in a short round 3 potentially.
And that's an interesting choice, because this is now, I mean, he's down a chunk of points, down 10, and offering Smiling to say, you know what, do you believe that the round control is that important in this match? Because now you have to make the decision, right? You have to make the choice here, what would you like to do? Has actually shuffled the Pavetta away with the Stratagem, but now sees it and may have the ability to put it back on top. Really interesting choice. to go at it this way, has dropped the Airland first instead, meaning that if he keeps playing and plays the Foltest, it has less turns to develop as you like. But wouldn't be surprised if we did see a click on this Airland in the end, just simply to deny that Witchfinder.
Oh, do you think so? Do you think we're going to see a click in round 1?
Possibly. Which would
we
be
have to
unusual,
decide.
right? It would be unusual.
Yes.
It's certainly in this list. There were times it was correct in the old Witcher list before, because you could still have buffed with Vest Mentor later. But we do see... Okay, so the Commando's down. Wouldn't expect to see the Thinning here to get back ahead with a leader charge. Would be very surprised not to see that, especially with the Spender on board and the coins to clean that up.
So we're considering a click. Surely we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably just a
alright.
little bit of delay there, just taking every second you've got to make the decisions. And now, I mean, a huge amount of commitment, some of which not ideal, but the only card really that isn't ideal is that. And we do see the click, which is what I thought here. That's a
nice.
really, that doesn't surprise me. And instantly, pass and goodbye.
Wow.
Carryover gone,
Okay.
no Foltest set up.
Great stuff. I mean, brilliant. Even though it's a bit of a commitment to use Atlant, because not only do you the carryover as well, but we do see those commandos going to the graveyard now. Pavetta still being able to pull them out, and you can still play Foltest later on to bleed round 2 and use the remaining commandos you haven't clicked in round 3. So there's still a lot of different ways to go about this, and the fact that GG has gotten round control, that's only step 1. But I'd say 50% of it has already been won at this point.
Now, is GG genuinely considering whether or not to play this Foltest here? Because at the
I
moment,
sincerely hope not.
a couple of his game plans are out of the window. Because he hasn't chosen to take this pass yet. He could just be going through his deck and taking every available second, which is far more likely. We do see the pass, and now he's probably spent that time looking through a deck list going, okay, what are my next moves? What are my next plans? Am I pushing this? What's left in my opponent's list? That kind of thing. And we do see the Pavetta jump on top and the Draug, which we knew was there. I mean, that's not awful, but still no AA.
Yeah, hey, you could have had a far worse hand, especially if you're not running something like Pincer Maneuver. He did very well in determining what cards he was going to draw into. And now we see these mulligans coming through. Ooh, a Siege Ladder.
Oh, and there it is. Now, Siege Ladder...
Nice.
I always make the mistake with Siege Ladder in Draug lists. It is not a human, it is a siege engine. The number of times I have played it in a Draug row and gone, oh no, because it obviously the card art has a guy climbing the Siege Ladder. But we see the push here kind of makes sense, taking taking Syndicate into a round when they haven't committed Drill. Seems a little bit scary here, so doesn't really surprise me that we see that. Are we now going to see the setup instantly? And that nice little bleed there, actually, from Smiling, just to make sure that that isn't available as a pass. But the Natalis into AA, first AA as well, which is not insignificant, to potentially now pull those commandos out, could be really nice, able to drag the Draug down as well.
Yeah, the problem is Smiling has reach in his hand, of course. GG doesn't know that. So that Horson Jr. is going to be able to quickly kill something like Foltest, and it's not going to stick. Of course, this has to be taken into account when deciding what's going to be played now. Are we going to see the commandos coming out here, or are we going to see a pass and just using the Echo card for the first time this round?
Well, that's the decision he's got to make. I think I'd be surprised if we don't see the commandos. The leader charge puts them all onto the front row here. Now, normally you're looking at it thinking if you're going to want to create more of them, maybe you want to put this on the back row to have a little bit more space. Of course, in a Draug list, that isn't what you want to do. You want as many units on the row as possible here. But we can see what the opponent can't. He is setting up as if Drill is there, right? He is saying, I am getting ready, I am getting prepared to get a Drill out. But there are a lot less coins available to him through his leader than normal. Has chosen not to spend here, knowing that you don't have removal at 6p in your list, so I can safely hold these coins. But we know the Drill isn't there. You're going to have to go fishing for the Drill with Bank. Bank is awkward.
Yeah. Oh, and we see Foltest coming out. Okay, well, it's a beautiful Foltest. And already we have one Commando now in the deck, ready to be pulled out. We might even see that Scout coming down in the next turn, but no.
So.
Oh, well, unless... it depends whether he wants to use Draug or not.
Yeah, he's got to use the Draug, right?
Yeah, he only has a limited amount of turns to use it, right? But yeah, beautiful horse on Junior getting rid of full test very quickly. And
Really
yeah,
nice
taking
spending here
points
as well. Because the bleed spend there drops that down to 3, which of course puts you in a lovely position to be able to use Junior on it. However, Draug is going to remove that bleeding. And oh, I love Draug now. You don't have to play it on the same row. It is deploy, order, pick row. That's such a nice change to this card.
I love it. It's so nice. It's really nice because not enough people play Drug. Though I do remember a time when it was the meta. It was not my favorite one, but I have fond memories of it comparing it to Gorm and Hyperthin currently. So maybe it's just nostalgia. But we do see Bloody
Maybe.
Good Fun coming down here and getting rid of one of the Revenants.
Yeah, that's one of those gone. And now that has chosen to spend there to go for max value that way instead, but choosing to spend there not only limits the amount of options from bank or slows you down, it may mean that you miss drill, which is really, really scary here. I think Smiling is of the opinion, you know what, I can probably get here without using the drill, but that's really risky. Doesn't have too many tall unit, like low value units, so it's not like you're going to get a huge amount of point value from these Revenants here. But are we going to see the all-in from GG? Obviously, he has to commit the card here. Is he going to Zeal as well? Because realistically, the benefit of that Zeal is 3 points. May be worth more later. Because he can't kill another unit, right?
No, definitely not.
He could cycle his own 2, actually. He could choose to cycle his own 2.
No, decides to ping Cleaver.
And plays back row?
So he doesn't want to fill up his deck with another one. He does decide to use the leader charge, getting 3 extra points there. No, I think he decided he doesn't want one of those filling up his deck when he actually wants to pull other cards instead. And we see Smuggle coming down here. Is he going to have enough is the question. What is he going to get with his Vivaldi bank? Because he has to commit
Well,
it now.
it comes down to the bank, yeah, it does come down to the bank. Now, the Scout wouldn't have done that, because the Scout would have spawned it on the bottom of your deck, so he'd never have drawn into it anyway.
I think it probably just doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Really.
I suppose it literally doesn't make any difference, to be fair. It doesn't make any difference. He literally doesn't need to do it, so why would he do it? He can't pull it out. And I think, does he have the spenders here to make this work? I think he withholds the tribute, can kill a 4, and I think he's fine, because he has the spender on board here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's okay. Gets out and keeps some coins as well. Not what we're hoping to see there for Sif. And still, on the side of Smiling, could still potentially grab Drill and something like a Furco to still be able to do that as well. So that has gone really well. That pretty much was an all-or-nothing shove. But it is top deck and wreck now. It's all well and good saying these things still exist, but you have to draw them.
Oh, he's going to need that bounty, right, with Graydon. He shuffles Graydon away. Okay, goes for a stick. He will be able to get another fist stick there with Furco, though, so not shabby, but he has no spenders left. So
no, and he's got to go first, so I don't think he can do that, right? Because he's going first into this round, so not ideal. Now, what's he... we can't see into his deck right now. I'm assuming the card he can pull... I'm pretty sure from Justice he has a bleed spender, so that's the spender he's going to grab, but that's a very ineffective spender here. So, expecting to see the Novigradian Justice just for maximum points, if nothing else, and then that option so that you can at least spend a little, right? I'm pretty sure it's not bricked. I think he ran a backup. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Bloody good friends.
But now Fistech is very much a brick, but it will play for some coins, though it really does depend how much you're actually going to get out of it at this point. I think he's going to have far too many coins here. And it's looking very good here for GG. We have that Amphibious Assault. We're starting small with a 4-point card there. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, though there is quite a bit of a point difference so far. Let's not count our eggs before they have hatched.
Indeed, yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to be able to see... I suppose a Kerrick Marine is probably the best option left for Keep Your GG, so as long as he has another unit alive... Oh no, he's got the Marine in hand. Ooh, what is he going to take for Amphibious Assault then? That's going to be interesting.
You don't want to play it yet. You don't want to play it yet, or else that spinner is going to find value immediately. You want that spinner to brick, so you're going to want to play the Carrot Marine now. You want to use your Mauler, and you want to have last say with the Amphibious Assault there, or else he's going to find significant value.
Yeah, So you're expecting here then... Yeah, we're definitely not going to play the AA. It wouldn't make sense. You're clicking and using that. Are you using this here? That's the question. Are you going to use this? And the reason you... depends on what card he's got left. Decides, no, I'm going to float it. Turns out that is a really good decision here, because now the fist deck does play for 3 points, because of course you'll stay at 9, you'll rethin that bank out, take yourself to 14. Actually, maybe enough here. Maybe enough, because I don't know if AA has a card that's going to play for 13 in this situation, especially with no leader charges left.
I do think GG takes this one. I think he takes it, yeah.
And of course, floating that ability there for the additional points in the Devotion deck, that extra 4 points, came down to it. That was quite a scary game. 2 shots at red.
I mean, it's not the worst position to be in right now,
I think I'd be happy in that position, I'm not going to lie. But we've seen stranger things. You and I have sat and we have watched Colemon reverse sweep Colgrim list that he has no right beating with any of his lists. So... the beauty is you've still got to... No, me either. It was insane.
It's just a fever dream.
That was crazy. But it is not over. We have seen reverse sweeps before. We have talked about this. While it is obviously not a great position to be 2-0 down, there is now no mystery to what you're drawing. You have your 3 lists, and you can choose when you play each of them on what coin, knowing exactly what you're queuing into. Now, okay, you never really want to be queuing into a double shot at this on red coin, but nonetheless, at least you're prepared and you can still make a little bit of the decision-making here. And of course, we get to see this monster list again, which makes me happy.
I like the fact that he's taking it on blue coin as well, though the stratagem doesn't really offer a lot. I'm wondering if he's going to play it the same way he did previously, because he does have Haunt, he does have the location, but I think he might have played Haunt earlier because he was hoping that his opponent didn't yet have Heatwave in hand. I have a suspicion that might have been the only reason he committed it around 1. We'll see now if that is just the general pattern he's going with on blue coin.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to see how this one plays out. We don't often see these sort of matchups, so we don't exactly know what the macro strategy is in this case, especially with players who play very oddly. But I must say the surprise factor is quite the edge in a tournament setting.
Definitely, and bringing lists like this, I think it's safe to say very few people will have prepared against this kind of list. So there's certainly something to be said about being able to bring something like this, and massive respect to Lekssmiling for doing that. I'm just taking a quick look at this list. Mulliganed away there, Mamuna in round 1 on blue coin, which possibly indicates he's more inclined to want to get out of this round, maybe go a little bit deeper than last time, because has all the cards obviously to get the setup. Mulliganing it away. Now, Doldulock as well does have the option of course, giving you your best card. Or I think it's highest provision card, I think, from Doldulock.
Doldulock.
I can't see because I'm in dark mode on this. Doldulock, not a card I play to. It's highest power, right?
Griffin.
It's highest power, so it would give you another Griffin, not the Mamuna. So that's an interesting mulligan away if he's not intending to go a little deep in this round. So it's not going to grab him the Aneromancy, because it would be too good if it was provisions, let's be real. It's going to grab him, I suppose, a guaranteed mulligan, because ultimately he's never going to want to keep that in hand, right? So at least he knows he's not going to draw into it. Maybe that was his logic. Interesting, though. Interesting to see how that works. And we do see that Doldulock again set up. A lot different in terms of this matchup. None of those neutral abilities are available in this matchup like they were in the Skellige matchup. There is no Heatwave. This is a Devotion list. There is no Xavier, exactly the same. So much of the power of this list was neutered when the Succubi were removed. So it's going to be interesting to see if the strategy of this deck, which does seem to have a lot of impact from them, pays off a little bit more now.
Yeah, and I like the Griffin play there. It actually found some nice value being able to proc Death Wish because it was already damaged by 3 points. Otherwise, Griffin would have gotten rid of a 4-point unit on the board instead. So we got the Griffin on the board now. In the graveyard, it's going to allow Mamuna to play for far more points. We see, oh, he's not bluffing. Okay, he is instead poisoning his own card for points because we can see he doesn't have more Fistic in his deck. Right now, Smiling has to decide whether he's actually going to commit as much as the previous round. Seems not. He doesn't have enough Death Wish cards to proc his Haunt twice anyway. So
No.
we see Payday coming down there. Okay,
Yeah,
finds
gets
some
the
nice
full value. Yeah, gets the full value there, of course, the extra coin from line pockets, making the difference, bringing him up to 9, thinning his boat. Doesn't look like a round he's fighting for, to be completely honest. Has committed almost nothing, thinned a little bit, filled his pocket, thinning a little bit more because ultimately on red coin, he knows full well his opponent is not going to pass here. So is just saying, okay, what are you going to commit? Which is interesting, because you're looking at the cards left now, and in fact he does take the pass. He takes the pass. That is interesting, because he was in a decent spot there. I suppose the Bloody Good Friends coming down isn't the worst, especially when it can spend like that. You can now bleed 3 times, take away your coin carryover, and be okay there. I think Smiley's going to be pretty happy with that, because everything he's played is set up. Everything he played there is set up for later. The Griffin, Mamuna setup. The Succubus, fantastic setup for later consumes of those. Doldilock down on the board for the carryover in the next round. Going to be really, really happy with the way that round went, albeit opponent did also manage to thin both of the doubles and also the boat out. So a kind of stalemate of a round, really, in the end, but does give up the round control to do it. We do see that very talented draw into an Aneromancy, though.
Yeah, the other draws are looking just as good. We see Graydon and Kurt coming out there. Another Succubus right there in hand. Now, like you said, already we have quite a bit of setup here. It doesn't shock me that Smiling went out of the round early on. He did the same when he played Monsters 2 games ago. So it seems he at least didn't decide to commit his scenario this time around. But now we'll see whether GG is going to bleed all of these cards out of him or go for a long round himself. It's entirely up to him. His hand is very good right now. It's just golds. He's shuffling away his Novigradian Justice. They're drawing into Cleaver. I mean, what a talent. So
Yeah.
we'll see whether he goes for it now.
Yeah, the problem is there's not really a lot in the way of proactivity in that.
Yeah.
He's looking at that and thinking, you know what, I'm Syndicate, my long round is pretty decent, I don't need to bleed my best cards out here to potentially give up control. Instead, we're going to see an Aneromancy effectively for thinning again. This is a situation where he's saying, what card do I least want to grab in the next round? And we see just a basic consume. Both leader charges sat there. Didn't click... Oh, no, he didn't click the Doldilock. Didn't click the Doldilock there. No. So the Doldilock is now gone, didn't click it. Now, it would have given him the Griffin, which is the card he doesn't want it to draw into. But it also means he was going to draw into it as a guarantee and then wouldn't have to worry about mulliganing it. So, interesting choice there. Doesn't matter. Incredibly talented individual finds the second Succubus. And, of course, Mamuna. You know what? Don't mess with greatness, chat. Don't mess with greatness. I take it all back. That is a stacked-looking hand on both sides. I am, however, not seeing a drill. I'm seeing no drill, I'm seeing no bank here. So, not amazing. Trying to work out which of my mulligans is the one I need to get rid of the most. Chooses to remove the poison. Oh, not gonna be happy. Albeit, eavesdrop can grab you a card. Not amazing there. Really not the situation you're looking for.
No, it certainly isn't. But I mean, the other cards are looking exceptional.
Yeah.
We start off with Witchfinder. We're going to get Bounty now, which is really nice because even if you're playing Death Wish, you end up killing your own cards more than not. And that is, of course, going to give GG the coins for the bounty. So if that Succubus gets eaten, it's going to give him 5 coins. So I quite like that proactive play from Witchfinder, and we see Haunt coming out as well. Haunt in round 3 this time around. I think that is a better decision for sure.
Yeah, I mean, being able to having the luxury of keeping it this time, certainly feeling a little bit better for Smiling. I'm guessing we want to see how quickly the Chiron can come down to basically switch off that Witchfinder, because the longer that Witchfinder keeps going, the more potential value it's going to create. You can see it basically keeps the Graydon active. The Graydon, I'd be surprised if we don't see the Graydon just taken here. Removal isn't something that exists a huge amount in the opposing list, and of course it is an open deck list situation, so it's not a bad spot. Could also just go nice and slowly, doesn't need to worry about it right now. Drop out something like the Smuggle maybe, and we'll be sort of labouring over which of those decisions to make. I don't expect to see the Freak Show until a huge amount of coin benefit can be got from that.
Okay, we see Graydon being played right off the bat. Of course, we know how Karen functioned last time, and the moment Karen comes down, Karen's going to have immunity, making that continuous bounty target quite a waste. So instead, we see Graydon coming down right now while we still can use it, and we see Succubus coming back onto the board. So that's
Really
a very nice
nice.
5 points right there.
Yeah. And the Sunset Wanderer, of course, a really bad bounty target. It's awful. And it will set up bounty very irritatingly, unless, of course, it gets hit now and dropped down from the Witchfinder. But it's only 1 point from the bounty, because, of course, it's base power. The difficulty is the next target, well, it's Mamuna. Mamuna, not much better. She is only 2. So you're going to have to spend 6 coins here and drop them both down to 9 in the hope that you hit the Griffin instead. And spends full... There you go. Okay, that makes more sense. I like that.
For sure. So, I mean, what Smiling can do now is simply just eat a lot of his cards with Karen if he really wants to. But instead he goes for Maruna.
This 50-50 is huge. Oh, and he loses it. That 50-50 was massive. If that Witchfinder... Oh, my lord. If he grabs that, that would have been massive. That 50-50, the Maruna there, was absolutely huge. And interestingly from GG... It wouldn't have been effective coin management to have chosen to spend on the bounty, because it would have been 5 coins for 4 and would have found better spenders later. But if he did spend, that wouldn't have been possible. So, wow. That was unlucky. But sometimes, you know what, it's a 50-50. Somebody's going to win the coin toss, right? This time, it looks like it has come up on Sif's favour.
Hey, he's still got 6 points from that one, stealing Graydon, putting it on his side of the board too. Not horrible. We see that Barghest getting the next bounty target, holding on to Karen for a long time, it seems. Yeah, perhaps not too worried about the bounty synergy, but it is slowly but surely catching up though. It cannot be ignored for too long. And there we see Karen coming out, eating Barghest, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I mean, it gives the coins, which is fine. Because ultimately you're still denying the removal value, which is just as big. Because they were going to get the coins if you didn't eat it, right? One way or another. Now, here's a really interesting situation. You're looking at Smiling's hand maybe and thinking, but there's a parasite right there. Why is this parasite not removing this unit? Why are we not getting rid of Horson's Freak Show? And the answer's pretty simple. It's the only 5-point removal he has, and he's worried about the drill. A drill, of course, we know probably doesn't exist. And that's one of the scary things. That's one of the really scary things. The drill, even not in hand, is causing a problem. At this point, he just decides, you know what, I've had enough of you, I'm going to get rid of this spender. Which, I suppose, is valid, because now the drill's value is denied, but the reason he hasn't done it up until that point is exactly that, I think.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, for sure. And the fact that so much was put onto Horson's Freak Show means that drill might very well not be in hand, because, of course, you'd like to set up Cleaver and your Tunnel Drill sooner than later, if that's the case. But instead, we got rid of that. So now we're spinning a bit more on the Sea Jackal. What are we playing next is the question.
Yeah, the Cleaver.
Finally playing Cleaver. All right.
Yeah. So Cleaver comes down here, not terrible at all, and it's going to be interesting to see which path is taken now. Because one of the great things this leader ability does, of course, it's going to consume any unit on the board, which feels really nice. Because, of course, the base power of the consumed unit is actually going to be lower. The total value is going to be higher, but the base power is going to be lower of the consumed unit. So, not the worst situation to deny a little bit of bounty if you can play it from something like the Professor, for instance, that we can see. Because if the Professor can pair... Well, okay, it can't actually in this situation, but if it could have done, it would have traded for a little bit less. And again, we see the monster list is up. It's up 17 points right now. But we all know how that dance can go as Syndicate.
Yeah, and we see Succubus coming out now without the Doomed because of Adrenaline 3. Eavesdrop. Okay, getting Novel Gradient Justice.
It's good.
But not the Tunnel Drill.
Is there an option left, actually?
We saw one Bloody Good Friends, I believe, in this game so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if that's the case, yeah, Justice isn't bricked then. Yeah, really... So no drill. The drill has been missed. And bank, I believe. Both of those have actually gone. Chooses to spend here to grab and go all the way up and get the boat out for maximum points, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and we now have the option of using Barghest and Succubus again. Of course, that's exactly what we do. And it comes out again. This is looking really good here. Smiling. I do love the succubus synergy, I must say.
It is really nice. It's yeah, the succubus cards, not ones we see that frequently. Not something we were expecting to see in the upper bracket final, no less. We'll hope that you can grab a win here.
Yeah, I don't really see Smiling GG catching up here to Smiling. He does give the succubus bounty though, which is smart because that's going to give him 5 coins now if he decides to consume it. Whether he does so is yet to be seen. Is it worth it? Are we going to consume it that much more during the game?
I would say there's at least, well, there's definitely 2 more consumes available, so I would be surprised if it doesn't happen. Can also deny perhaps the pairing and a slightly better professor, something like that, because of course there's still a Bargus charge, still a leader charge, and then you've got the potential of what you're going to pull from that Aneromancy.
I see a possible reset there for the Sea Jackal. We'll still see. It depends what's going to get us more points. Those shields are definitely going to take up a lot of the Werecat's potential value. It's still not nothing, especially since it's played twice upon Deathwish. You see Succubus being consumed again. I quite like it. And popping out, we are now 50 to 70. There's a bit of a gap there. Quite a bit.
Yeah, a bit of a gap, but there's an extra card, and both of those cards are going to comfortably play for at least 10, and not insignificantly, a full pocket as well. It may look like there's a big gap here. I don't think the gap is as big as it looks, and I certainly don't think that Sif is out of this yet. Depending on which way he goes at this, I think he's going to be a little bit frustrated, perhaps, that he hasn't got the max value out of some of these bounty cards. Missing Drill, obviously, never going to feel good. Could choose to Novigradian Justice here and bleed both of the 5s, potentially. That's an option he could take here. Could just, and in fact, just says, you know what, I'm just going to Professor instead. Screw it. That's interesting.
Alright, Professor on the 5, and of course we can remove it with something like Orson Jr. Do we, or do we instead hope for another consume here from Smiling's end?
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's not terrible as a consume option here. Now may decide to take the Werecat now. Take the Werecat to deny the Horson Jr. and prevent this removal being possible, which may end up being the best. In fact, because I don't think double consuming it... Is double consuming it worth it? No, because of course hitting the front row... Okay, it is. That's the decision that's made. It's a big gap. 19 points needed. Novigradian Justice and effectively 6 coins available. Ooh.
Okay, so we're getting the Coerced Blacksmith here. We don't have Bloody Good Friends, no. So Coerced Blacksmith going into the back row.
And of course, it is just... It's... Oh, I'm so sad to see that happen. Because honestly, Smiling played so well and bought so many interesting decks. But you know what? It didn't matter, because Keep Your GG or Lord Sif has 3-0'd. He has just gone through and smashed that. 3-0.